luxury yacht. How can anyone build such a marvelous thing? A huge skyscraper, but on top of an even bigger boat. They even house more than a small town in the countryside, and they travel the world. Well, sit back, relax, and enjoy, because we are about to find out how these luxury yachts are made from the very bolt to the last window pane. Let's start with Yachts from the Netherlands. Work begins with the keel, the backbone of the boat. Flat sheets of aluminum arrive, get curved into exact shapes, braced in jigs, and stitched together with bright arcs of welding. Plate by plate, seam by seam, a skeleton becomes a shell. In one hall, a 260-foot yacht like Genesis rises from scaffolding. In another, a record setter called Project Cosmos shows what's possible when you push aluminum for speed and strength while staying with conventional propellers. There's a quiet confidence to the place. Crews move in practice patterns, cranes drift overhead with whole sections like they weigh nothing, and sparks dance along weld seams as the hull takes form. Building the outside is only half the job. Once the shell is sealed, the work turns inward. Months of labor hide behind satin panels and stone floors, miles of wire and pipe, ducts and frames that make the yacht feel like a calm, modern home while it crosses rough water. A finished hull rolls to an outfitting hall. Traveling cranes glide along ceiling rails, lowering engines, generators, stabilizers, and entire room modules into position. The shipyard sits on canals linked to the sea, so when a section needs water for a float test or a finished boat is ready to leave, the path is already there. What makes these different from the other cruise ships is that they can be 100% custom builds, something unique in the ship industry. Since their founding in 1978, they have already crafted more than 200 cruise ships, pioneering the industry in Southern Europe. The company was founded by plastics industry entrepreneur Frans Heesen. Heesen Yachts began when Heesen bought the former Striker Boats yard in the Netherlands. He initially acquired the site for a different venture, but chose to keep it running as a shipyard. 1 year later, the company launched Amigo, a 20-meter, 66-foot luxury yacht, the first to carry the Heesen name. Super yachts are rare. Only dozens launch each year. Owners have been getting younger, but the club is still tiny, and the boats keep getting longer. Around the world, there are thousands of yachts over 100 feet, with motor yachts far outnumbering sailing yachts. Most of these giants spend less than a fifth of the year underway. Even at the dock, generators hum to keep the air cool, the lights on, the kitchens working, and the crew housed. That's one reason builders chase better efficiency. Cleaner hull shapes to cut drag, shallower shaft angles to lower resistance, and hybrid systems that smooth out power use. Every hull is proven with tests. One of the most important looks almost simple: the inclining experiment. Crews move known weights across the deck, measure how far the boat leans, and verify that real-world stability matches the calculations. Then comes paint, a slow craft of its own. Several coats build a deep, hard finish that can handle sun, salt, and fenders. The engines, built in a separate plant, are lowered onto isolation mounts, so vibration doesn't creep into the living spaces. When the upper deck section is ready, 2 giant cranes lift it, swing it over the hull, and set it down with millimeter precision. Building hull and superstructure separately saves time. Joining them can take only a few hours if everything lines up. You see the human side everywhere. In one bay, a 195-foot powerhouse takes shape with roughly 22,000 horsepower under the deck. In another, a 164-foot aluminum yacht shows how bright, comfortable ensuite cabins can be fitted into a sleek hull without wasting an inch. Stair treads are hand-scribed to curved floors. Cabinet doors close with a whisper. Hidden ways let crew move around without stepping through guest areas. The work is manual by design. Every yacht is different, and most parts are one-offs. Design isn't just pretty pictures. Naval architects test how water flows along the hull. Scaled models and computer runs help confirm the shape will deliver the promised speed, range, and comfort. Details you'll never see matter a lot. A well-designed rudder-propeller combination can reduce cavitation, which lowers noise and vibration so the whole boat feels calmer at speed. Inside, owners choose almost everything: stone, leather, wood species, metals. That's one of the main reasons the price climbs. Interior fittings and high-end materials can add tens of millions to a build, and they demand expert hands. Some jobs are deep refits that gut and renew a proven hull. A steel giant from the 1980s can leave the shed feeling born again. New engines, new wiring, fresh layout, modern materials. Every centimeter of space is reviewed with the owner. Cabin layouts, ceilings, hardware, fabric, fabrics, and even the finish on a latch. Nothing is standard. Refit teams work like surgeons, opening spaces carefully, upgrading systems, and closing them so the yacht looks untouched, just newer, quieter, and more efficient. Walk a few halls in Germany, and you meet another giant, a yard famous for size and secrecy. Here, several of the longest yachts on the water were assembled, beam by beam. Launch days feel like holidays. A 400-foot palace slides into the river for the first time, a crowd cheering as the bow touches the current and tugs take the lines. Price tags live in the headlines, hundreds of millions to buy, tens of millions a year to run. But inside the sheds, the focus is the same as anywhere. Cut, fit, check, repeat. Privacy is part of the service. Some names leak, an enormous flagship tied to a royal, a bold profile linked to a sports mogul, but the yard shrugs and keeps building. Most crew live aboard on monthly salaries with housing and meals covered. The yacht becomes a small town where laundry runs around the clock. Engines have bedtime stories, and someone is always polishing glass. Environmental pressure hangs over the industry. A single super yacht can be the most polluting object an individual owns, which is why these yards invest in hybrid systems, lower emissions, and even alternatives to combustion for hotel power while at anchor. Every project hits the same good moment: christening. A bottle breaks on the bow, the name becomes official, and the hull takes salt water for the first time. People ride along, partly for the thrill, partly to watch and listen. Does she sit on her marks? Do the stabilizers tame the chop? Is anything buzzing, weeping, or running hot? Only when those answers are right does the team exhale and move on to the last layers of finishing. Scale shifts the plan. A 400-foot boat might be laid out for 20 guests in 11 suites, with most of the volume dedicated to crew spaces, storage, service routes, and utilities. The owner could be an American businessman best known in sports, but the build still follows the same pipeline. Exterior finishing outside, interior finishing inside, then a quiet hall where punch lists run to the floor. Yards have grown, shrunk, and grown again with demand. Through the 1980s, the 2000s boom, and today's steady order books. At some builders, the workforce rose past 2,000 by 2020, with a big share of engineers keeping designs current and power systems efficient. Under the decks, diesel-electric systems have become common. Instead of tying cabin power to shaft speed, generators make electricity at steady, efficient loads. Electric motors turn the propellers, sometimes through pods that swivel for precise maneuvering. The result is smoother handling and quieter nights. Traveling cranes along the ceiling rails shuttle heavy parts bay to bay. One representative refit is a yacht built elsewhere, refreshed in Hamburg with new systems and style. Whether the work is new build or refit, every centimeter is planned with the owner and signed off before it's installed. Other builders work at a different cadence, higher volume but high craft, with relentless logistics. In Plymouth, England, long sheds hum with saws and routers. Wood is still king. Thousands of parts, bulkheads, doors, stair treads, curved trims, start small and become whole rooms. The joinery skills would look familiar to a carpenter from a century ago, but the tools now are digital and exact. Once the woodwork is moving, crews spray a protective resin layer on the underside and begin to close the boat up. Overhead, cranes carry the skeleton from station to station. The upper deck lowers onto the hull like a lid on a jewelry box. In the same window, a finished engine rides a roof crane, drops into the belly of the boat, and bolts to mounts while fitters check tolerances with feeler gauges. Models carry their own personalities. A 35-meter design might use a reconfigurable cockpit for different kinds of days at sea, huge windows that bring the horizon indoors, and just enough hidden tech to keep everything quiet. A 40-meter stretches the idea with twin big block diesels, a spa tub, bright dining, and a beach club door at the waterline. One company employs more than 3,000 people and launches roughly 300 boats and yachts a year. Finished yachts don't only leave for their owners. They travel to shows like Dusseldorf, where moving a giant hull through bridges and tight turns is expensive but worth it. One sail can cover the whole operation. The basics repeat across borders. In Turkey, giant scaffolding wraps around fresh holes, while welders run beads along new seams. In paint halls, crews lay down coats that cure to a hard gloss. Then, the main assembly begins. Commercial rules limit passenger counts on some boats. Private yachts have more freedom if they sail under the right flag. The names change, but the idea is the same. Build a small ship to the standards of a great house, then let owners take it somewhere far. Expedition yachts push the formula. A Dutch builder of explorer boats treats them as remote-based machines for science, skiing, diving, and ice watching. Heavy gear, subs, rigid inflatables, trucks, containers, disappears behind shell doors. Big propellers arrive by rail from another factory. Hull welding runs for months while interior teams build furniture next door. Many explorers carry a helicopter to cover the last few miles in remote places. Inside, there's still luxury machines, warm wood, stone, soft corners, but the bones are tougher, the systems heavier, and the storage bigger. Back to that Explorer line. Since around 2010, the company has focused on 2 core models at a time, one mid-range, one larger. Moving day looks like this. A lifting platform brings the hull ashore, sets it on rails, and the boat rolls inside to a finishing bay. A 190-foot Explorer shows how modular the work can be. A crane lifts the communication mast, swings it into place, and the mount bolts home. This first build in a new site started on spec. The owner plans globe-trotting runs, and the numbers support it. Roughly 5,000 nautical miles of range at about 11 knots, 12 guests in 6 cabins, a crew of 15, plus 2 expedition staff for serious trips. Italy adds its own speed and style. A 160-foot model in a new series launched with fanfare near Viareggio, supported by a plant in Massa that handles forming and rolling for large composite structures. The brand comes from a family that's steered the group since the 1980s, and even its entry range, fast 104-footers, looks all business at launch. Another headline boat shows what a hybrid can do, pairing electric drive with solar panels and meeting strict emissions rules, all while feeling refined and quiet on board. At the smaller end of the fast line, a 33-meter Grand Sport runs compact diesels on IPS pods for sharp handling and efficient planing. Custom giants need different tools. A private Dutch builder focuses on 260-foot-plus mega yachts. Ownership sits with an industrialist who chairs a group active in energy, mining, and engineering. Their 360-foot flagship turned heads when it sold for close to $300 million. The process is familiar. Months of digital design to lock the look, then a translation into build drawings that specify every beam, plate, panel, and fastener. Yard capacity is limited by choice. Only 2 SuperYachts at a time. That keeps focus high. In busy seasons, the yard adds night shifts to keep momentum without cutting corners. Moving mountains is part of the job. Tractors with dozens of wheels shuffle massive loads on modular rollers, sneaking holes around corners and into paint sheds. Roof height is limited in some halls, so radar masts often wait outside for the very end. On the first move to open water, tugboats do the work. Main engines stay cold while painters and carpenters finish details. Some yards have indoor basins big enough to hold water, equal to about 21 Olympic pools, so launches can happen regardless of weather. Flooding the hull takes the better part of half a day. Explorer lines highlight remote comfort. One 77-meter build shows a rare golden brown hull. Up top, there's a heli deck. Inside, you get floor-to-ceiling windows that flood the main deck with light and a full-beam owner's suite that feels like a quiet apartment at sea. Deep down, diesel-electric power sits in tidy rows, well-insulated, with redundant systems so crews can work safely in bad weather. The engine room is the heart of any ship, and a long training period keeps crews sharp for drills and day-to-day operations. Asia has joined the club with a yard on a northern peninsula. Its longest launch so far carries resort-style decks and a full cinema and massage room below. Italy keeps pace with big names of its own. A major yard with sites in Livorno, Viareggio, and Fano partners with engine specialists, casting and balancing propellers on site before fitting them under teak-laid decks, while painters and electricians swarm above. Their largest recent flagship sits around 355 feet, a reminder that Italian yards compete at the very top end of size and style. Once an interior is complete and systems are tested, the yacht eases into a floodable chamber. Seawater rises, lines are cast off, and she glides out for trials. Even then, a punch list remains. Tuning engines, checking controls, refining finish. Back in the Netherlands, picture a shed that can hold an ocean's worth of precision. One builder uses that space to float a towering aluminum sport fisher, the largest true sport fish yacht yet. 6 decks high, with a long, clean foredeck and a low, uncluttered cockpit aft. More than 350 specialist builders touched it. Metal, systems, interior, careers before it left the cradle looking like a lightning bolt built to chase marlin. The same group's main yard sits beside a canal that leads straight to saltwater, so trials can begin the moment the boat clears the door. Sail and power projects run side by side. A 213-foot performance sail build uses an aluminum hull, a carbon rig, and integrated systems that keep loads manageable. Charter economics thread through this world too. Many owners offset running costs by chartering. Guests cover fuel, food, and berthing through an advanced provisioning allowance so the captain can run cleanly without constant approvals. In those weeks, a yacht becomes a small boutique hotel with a captain's handshake instead of a front desk. Production is a relay race. In one hall, a 155-foot new launch rides a multi-axle transporter toward the door, nearly 100 workers guiding it out. Her trial speed sits around 17 knots, and careful weight work made her roughly 11% lighter than a typical aluminum pier. A few doors down, a project shows how far design can stretch under 500 gross tons. At about 192 feet, it's among the longest yachts in that category, cruising near 12 knots and topping out above 22. Two big gyro stabilizers keep the lounge steady when swell rolls across the beam. Inside, a seemingly endless wine wall lines up bottle after bottle with museum-grade lighting. Moving whole sections takes choreography. Powerful tractors push, while a pilot with a joystick steers dozens of wheels. Overhead, cranes lift and marry the main parts before paint, engines, and furniture go in. After the bridge section drops, the highest point on the yacht, the profile clicks into its final, aerodynamic shape. Fresh paint turns a bare aluminum body into a deep blue hull that mirrors the dock like glass. With the last checks done, the boat edges down to the water. Two cranes share the weight, slings tighten, and tens of millions of dollars hang in the air for a quiet minute before the hull settles and the lines go slack. Sailing projects bring their own drama. A 50-meter catch might run manual steering, no power assist, and still feel light, firm, and precise at the wheel. In the same yard, you might watch the largest hull they've ever built flip from upside down to right side up. It has to happen outside because the cranes need the headroom. That rotation marks a milestone. From then on, outfitting can begin in earnest. Another turn shows a 171-foot luxury hull, rotating under 4 cranes, each inch coordinated by radio. A little farther down the pier, a 266-foot sailing yacht with a vertical bow, the builder's largest sailing project so far, stands tall with 3 main sails that can be hoisted together in the time a smaller sloop needs to raise one. Materials explain a lot about how these boats feel. Aluminum matters because it balances strength and weight. Decades of practice let these yards build light, stiff structures that accelerate easily, sip fuel under power, and dance under sail. Compared to heavy motor sailors, a true sailboat needs less engine to do the same work, which shows up in both range and feel. On the power side, low drag hulls, shallow shaft angles, and careful rudder prop combinations help reduce cavitation, noise, and vibration, so the whole boat feels calmer at speed. Behind the scenes, supply chains and planning rule everything. A production manager's wall is covered with timelines. When the frames arrive, when the tankage is pressure tested, when the joinery gets sealed, when the marble is templated, when the AV racks are wired, when the mast gets stepped. One late component can ripple into 3 weeks of delay. That's why long lead items, engines, gearboxes, pods, stabilizers, glazing, specialty stones are ordered early, stored carefully, and checked twice before installation. Logistics can make or break a schedule as surely as weather on sea trials. Crew training starts early too. Engineers learn the quirks of the power system, while electricians label every run, so diagnostics are easier 1,000 miles from shore. Deckhands practice anchoring and tender launch drills. Stewards test laundry cycles and galley flow because a yacht works best when guests forget it's a moving machine. Manuals grow thick. Fuel polishing, water maker membranes, chiller loops, UPS lifetimes, shore power converters for different ports. The aim is simple: quiet reliability. Owners shape the story. Some want a family base with warm woods and soft corners, playrooms tucked behind libraries, and a cinema where the sea hum fades into soundtrack. Others want a clean, almost gallery-like space for art. silver light across pale stone, and long views through floor-to-ceiling glass. A few go full expedition: laboratories, dive lockers, decompression chambers, freezers for months-long trips, and a heli deck that doubles as a boat park. The yard's job is to translate any of that into a structure that meets class rules, survives hard seas, and still feels effortless. Where do these yachts go? Seasons split the map. Spring and summer put them in the Mediterranean, France, Italy, Greece, the Croatian coast, while winter sends them to the Caribbean. A handful chase farther horizons: the fjords, Patagonia, the Kimberley, Svalbard, the South Pacific. Some are privately used. Many spend part of the year on charter, where weekly prices can climb into six figures and beyond. Charter keeps crews sharp and helps owners offset running costs without losing control of schedules. Numbers put the scale in focus. A global fleet of nearly 6,000 superyachts has grown several times over the last 3 decades. A single large yacht can carry more than 100 crew, weigh as much as dozens of wide-body airliners, and burn through a project sheet that spans electrical, mechanical, structural, and interior trades. Some are built of steel and aluminum with composite superstructures. Others are all aluminum for lighter weight and speed. A small group of large sailing yachts use carbon spars and high-tech rigging to move tons of displacement under quiet wind. And then there's the moment everyone works toward: sea trials. Captains and yard teams run speed curves, turning circles, crash stops, noise and vibration checks, and endurance runs at different loads. Stabilizers swing, thrusters push, pods swivel. Alarms are tested, then tested again. Radios crackle as the boat loops through measured miles and whispers back into port to tweak a setting or tighten a line of code in the automation system. Once the numbers pass, the boat heads out for owners' trials, the fun kind, where everything is the same but with better snacks. Now, let's lift the lid on what you don't see. The systems that make life at sea feel like life at home. Start with power. Big yachts use redundant generators, often 4 or more, so electricity stays stable even if one unit goes down. Switchboards split loads across hotel power lights. HVAC, kitchens, propulsion, and critical systems. Battery banks smooth spikes and keep essentials alive during a generator changeover. In hybrid setups, electric motors can spin propeller shafts directly, cutting noise and saving fuel at lower speeds. HVAC is a small city of its own. Chillers cool seawater and circulate it through air handling units on each deck. Ducting is insulated to keep cabins quiet. Sensors track temperature and humidity room by room. And a central control lets crew balance comfort and efficiency. Fresh air makeup, filtered and dried, keeps spaces from feeling stale. The goal is simple: 22 degrees Celsius and quiet, whether it's a humid day in the Med or a windy night off Antigua. Water systems hide below the floors. Desalinators turn seawater into fresh, feeding tanks that hold tens of thousands of liters. UV filters and mineral dosing make it taste clean. Gray and black water head the other way, treated to strict standards before discharge offshore. Fuel systems have polishers that circulate diesel through filters to remove water and microbes. Clean fuel saves engines. Communication and navigation run through racks of electronics. Satellite domes for internet and TV, VSAT or newer constellations for data, GPS, and inertial systems for position. Radar arrays for traffic and weather. ECDIS, screens for charts. AIS for tracking ships nearby. Fiber and Cat6 cabling thread the boat like nerves, tying together cinema rooms, crew mess TVs, security cameras, bridge consoles, and the owner's office. Fire safety is everywhere. Engine rooms have fixed systems, often foam or gas, that can knock down a fire without drowning the machinery. Galleys have hood systems with thermal triggers. Every deck has handheld extinguishers and hydrants. Doors and bulkheads are rated for fire resistance, and escape routes are marked and lit. Drills are mandatory. A good crew treats safety as muscle memory. Tenders and toys get their own garages. A pair of fast launches handle shore runs, with cranes or shell doors to move them. Jet skis, dive gear, and sometimes a small sub rest on custom racks. Beach clubs at the stern fold open to the sea so guests can step into warm water or onto a floating dock. The line between ship and resort gets thinner every year. Classification societies keep standards high. Yachts are built and surveyed to rules that cover structure, stability, fire resistance, life-saving appliances, and more. Flag states add their own requirements. Commercially compliant builds meet charter rules. Private builds still follow class for safety and resale. Surveys continue through the boat's life. Annual, intermediate, and special checks keep the certificate current. Quality control happens at every turn. Welds are X-rayed, tanks are pressure tested, cabling is Megger tested for insulation, doors are checked for squeaks, catches for latches, floors for level, carpets for seams. Builders run full load tests on generators, blackout recovery drills, bilge and fire pump trials. A light that flickers on day one becomes a loose spade connector, found and fixed before handover. Costs don't stop at delivery. Running a large yacht can mean tens of millions a year. Crew salaries, fuel, maintenance, dockage, insurance, upgrades, refits every 5 years, paint every 7 to 10. Good managers plan maintenance around owner use and charter windows, slotting in shipyard time for class surveys and big jobs like shaft pulls and stabilizer overhauls. Timeline-wise, a typical full custom looks like this: 6 to 9 months of concept and contract design, 6 months of detailed engineering, 12 to 18 months of hull and superstructure build, 12 months of outfitting, 3 months of testing and trials. Parallel work shortens the total time. Furniture gets built while the hull is still in a jig. Engines ship while steel is still being cut. But physics and craftsmanship take the time they take. Noise and vibration control is a quiet art. Resilient mounts isolate engines and gensets. Flexible couplings soften shaft pulses. Floating floors decouple footsteps from cabins. Baffles hush air handlers. Even the way a cabinet is fastened can change how a room sounds at speed. The best compliment for a build team is silence. When a guest asks, "Are we moving?" and the captain smiles. Sustainability is more than a buzzword now. Hybrid propulsion lowers fuel burn. Shore power connections let yachts plug in at the dock and shut down generators. Waste heat recovery warms water. Solar helps with trickle loads. Advanced coatings cut drag and stay clean longer. Better route planning and slow steaming save tons of fuel on passages. It's not perfection, but the trend is real. Crew culture makes or breaks the experience. A happy professional crew keeps everything tight and friendly. Chefs shop local and design menus around seasons and sensitivities. Stewards learn guests' preferences after day one. Engineers log every tweak and every alarm. Bosuns and deckhands run a deck like a ballet. Lines coiled, stainless shining, tenders launched and stowed with zero drama. When it works, the machine disappears and only the holiday remains. Back on the build floor, all this planning and craft comes together in a moment that still makes veterans stop and look. Roll out. The doors open. Light hits paint that has only ever seen LEDs. A multi-axle transporter crawls forward, a pilot walking beside it with a joystick to steer the wheels. Taglines keep the bow straight. On the quay, 2 cranes stand ready with slings as broad as a man's shoulder. A voice on a radio counts down, and the weight lifts. From air to water, a few inches at a time, the yacht settles into its element. Fendered workboats take bow and stern lines. A pilot steps aboard with the captain. In the engine room, an engineer checks temps and pressures as generators start. On the bridge, silence. Autopilot ready, radar painting, charts up. Out in the fairway, a soft weight curls off a hull that has never moved under her own power before. It's a quiet miracle, even when you know every step that made it happen. Sea trials follow a script. Acceleration runs map speed against power. Turning circles test rudders and fins. Crash stops check control at the edge of physics. Noise surveys put microphones in cabins and galleys and on the bridge. Crew note every buzz, squeak, and rattle. Software gets patched. Valves are adjusted. Props are polished. Each day ends with lists. Each morning begins with fixes. Owner's trials are the dessert. The yacht does the same drills, but the pace loosens. A lunch appears on the aft deck. Someone tries the cinema in daylight. The pool warms. The owner walks the route from master suite to coffee to sun pad and smiles because the doors open the right way and the steps are the right height and the handrails are exactly where hands want to be. Handover is paperwork and handshakes. Warranties start. Spare parts lists get checked against actual stores. Crew get a cloud folder full of manuals and wiring diagrams. The captain signs for a boat that has moved from project to ship. The yard team watches her go with a mix of pride and relief. In a few weeks, she'll be in photos off Capri or St. Barth's, or tucked into a quiet bay somewhere only the pilot knows. And then, the cycle begins again. The next keel goes down. New owners bring new ideas. A greener system here, a bigger beach club there, a skylight over the staircase that seems impossible until someone sketches a way to make it safe, strong, and watertight. The same hands pick up torches and sanders and polishers and wrenches, and the same story starts to write itself. Keel, hull, decks, paint, power, interior, systems, tests, toward another launch day when a bottle breaks. A name carries over the water, and a floating world points her bow toward the horizon.